morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Here's a look at the ES in the daily time frame. We got a steady continuation to the upside. We got through the previous session's midpoint and worked our way all the way to and through the previous week's midpoint at 63.54. That was the long target here for the day in the best case scenario yesterday, and it gives us a new key range. So that high, Friday's low, and back to 63.54 gives us a new key range, and that key range is locked and loaded now, and we can use the extensions for targets both above and below. We can watch for the edges here for plays back inside the range. This is going to be a great key range to continue to watch here. Now, from a today perspective, big time flow higher yesterday. Is today going to be a fade after trend day back down? Do we drop this thing back down, or can the market hang on up here and extend these gains into the previous week's high? Previous week's high would be here, 63.54, the key level there, and we have a super tiny range developing right on top of that level right now. 28% of ADR, just 19 points of range. This is looking like a box reversal developing here, which means if we fail through the 54s or through 50 here, we could be looking at a rotation back into the previous session's midpoint. That's going to be right there at 63.10. That could be an easy target to the downside. Again, if we fail through the previous week's midpoint, a little fade back in. So watching to see how that plays off the previous session's mid, or previous week's mid. Looking at the NQ, similar price action here. This one bounced the previous session, pushed through the previous session's mid, and made its way into the previous week's midpoint to create another key range. Great impulse move down. Nice little return back to the midpoint. We have that key range set now, and it's about 1,100 points of range here for this one. 1,100 points. So if we're dropping to the downside, you're looking at about 21.6. 21.6 is a target. That's 1,100 points right there. Or if you look to the upside here, you're looking at about 24.950 as the upside target. So it gives us something to shoot for down the road. Right now, narrow range, 29% of ADR, 91 points, and it's developed also above the previous week's midpoint of 23.310. We fail at 300, and you start to work your way back to the previous session's midpoint down below. For the ES, it was 63.10. For the NQ, we're looking at 23.087 right there. So that could be a target to the downside if these fail at the mids early today. Looking at crude oil, down 1.4% right now. Big time reversal off the 70 level and back down towards 64. Mentioned that we could be looking at a push into 64 and then bounce it right back up, as 64 to 70 has continued to be the range to watch. We also have an expanding quality on the upside portion of this range, so maybe we can dip a little below 64 and then shoot it back up towards 71.50. So watching this edge down here, perhaps not today but soon. Looking at gold futures, down about 0.25% right now. This one's on a 2-day hold pattern after a big time squeeze on Friday, the first trading day of August. Big time squeeze to the upside within the range right now, because we're kind of at the apex of this larger compression here that has played out over the last several months. Build up of energy in here is significant, but we could continue to see a little back and forth before that expansion occurs. So this thing can drop, say, into 32.50 and still be fine. This thing can rally into 34.50 and still drop. We got about 200 points of grace back and forth before we finally see expansion, and we could continue to see a lot of back and forth before it happens. When we do see an expansion event, it needs to be a big time transition day through 34.50. That's been the area where we've gotten into it, but we've turned down multiple times. So it needs to be a day where we leave behind 34.50 and close beyond 3,500. That's the breakout day in all likelihood. All right, looking at the YM. YM right now, marginally, well, actually right now just barely down on the day, but it was marginally higher a moment ago. 41% of ADR, 200 points of range, super narrow range here. It has remained within a very bullish trend since the April lows. You can see this trend has been tremendous. It's also managed to hang above market structure here and all the way. So it's been a very, very good move. That low right there, 43,500, 43,450, that's a big time low where if it fails, you open up 4,100. If it can hold that zone, can we get another rotation to the upside here up ahead? Is this going to be a squeeze point for these markets, or do we fail back down? Again, keeping an eye right here. This one did make it to the previous session's midpoint as well, or previous week's midpoint, if I can speak, 44,400 basically. And that was a long way from yesterday's open all the way back up. So a big time move yesterday to get there. If there's a failure now through 44.2, you start to open up a rotation back to 44K, which is right into the previous session's midpoint. Is today a bit of a fade after trend day? Or can bulls defend the morning pullback for a continuation, a check mark continuation higher? Keeping an eye again, 44,200 right here. Looking at Bitcoin, down 0.6% right now. While this one has continued to build some energy, it really hasn't seen the expansion out of the range. Instead, it's been a little bearish here. You had a bit of a meltdown on a Friday here. Monday inside day, today hanging in there. So a little bit of a rounded quality here, but not severely bearish rounded quality. Instead, like the YM, for example, this thing continues to trend up since the April lows. Nice channeling behavior. Can we get one good rejection here that gets us going to the upside again? 110 will be very important here. So can it get that move and go, or do we fail at 110 and open up a bigger correction? So getting closer to that point here soon. Looking at ETH, this one's down about 1% as well. Right now, this one had a nice bounce back day the previous session, holding yesterday's mid right now. That's going to be the early level to watch, 3,600. If it can hold it, is this morning's pullback a chance to check mark this thing higher through 3,800? Or are we seeing another failed new high within a down move that pushes us through 36 and gets us into lower territory? Below 3,400 really opens things up. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.